Heat it until it's boiling, and then cut it off. And then you strain it. And I take a masher usually and try to get out the extra juice. Okay, we've got everything strained down in its basic state, primarily strained. But that's not the last step. It's not my favorite step. I know there's got to be a better way to strain this to where you can get real clear jelly and save a lot of time, because the way I do it is real time consuming, but I know there's a way, because I use of course you've seen me using this type of colander. Then I use this kind. Then I actually use a spatter screen. And here's a spatter screen with a little finer mesh that I've actually cut out from the handle and shaped it to a bowl. And then I use a real fine mesh strainer after that. And last but not least, I use the jelly bag. And it works real good, but I have to say, I have to use this over and over, especially with Scuppernongs, because it clogs pretty quick. So, you know, I have to just rinse it repeatedly, dry it, rinse it. When I say dry it, I mean squeeze it out real good, because you don't want to force the juice through the bag. You want it to drip through it. And then I let this juice freeze overnight. I'm sorry, I mean refrigerate overnight, not freeze. But what happens is I don't know if it's going to capture it in this light. And of course I'm not using a very high quality camera here, but you'll see little white dots throughout it. That's called tartrate crystals. Tartrate crystals don't harm anything. It's just, I kind of like the appearance when it's done to be a very amber and translucent color. It's a lot prettier. Right now, it's more of a, it's just an opaque, brown, tan kind of color. But that will change during the process of making the jelly. I can't tell you enough how important this step is. It is very important to measure these ingredients exactly like the package says. I mean precisely. And I'm using a knife to level off the amount of cups of sugar, because 1 tablespoon one way or another can make a difference whether you're going to have, you know, real stiff or real runny jelly. And that's going to go with the juice, the amount of juice or the amount of sugar that you use. And depending on the brand of pectin, in this case I'm using Ball brand, which is a real popular brand. They're the ones who make canning jars, so I'm like, hey, they probably know what they're talking about. But I have used certain brands of pectin and had very disappointing results. So I have to say, I'm confident this will work this time, but there has been times that after doing all this, it didn't turn out exactly like I want. So sometimes it's hit and miss. We'll see how this works. But you're going to have to do that with the juice, exact amounts. That's why I use measuring cups that doesn't have a flange that can throw you off. This is exactly 1 cup. And if you level out the top, you're going to have the exact amount. Okay, now we have 6 cups of sugar, white granulated sugar, and we have 5 cups of Scuppernong juice. And like I said, I'm using the Ball brand. I'm not trying to advertise for these people, because there's several brands on the market. This is a popular brand, and I'm trusting it this time. I don't remember having used it before, but I may have. One of the things it did say, now I'm going by the Concord grape recipe, and I explained earlier that we're looking at the difference between, you know, bioengineered agricultural quality grapes as opposed to a wild wine type of grape. I don't know if these differences will matter in this recipe, and You know, I'm taking a little shot in the dark, as I always do. So one of the things it says in the recipe is that you add 1/4 cup of water. Now in this case, measuring out my Scuppernong juice, I noticed I was about 1/8 of a cup of juice short, so I went on ahead and topped it off, you know, to finish up the 5 cups of water, or of Scuppernong juice. So I'm going to trust that the proportions are exact, and we'll continue from there. The big yellow bucket weighs 3 pounds, and that makes the amount of Scuppernongs that I had was 22 pounds. Okay, I got a dishwasher going, so I don't know if you're going to hear me too well here. But this step, what we want to do is we're going to take the pectin, and we're going to add it to a small bowl. The entire contents in there. Now, the sugar, we want to take 1/4 cup from what we have here. Remove it from here. Once again, we level it out precise. And then we're going to add it to the pectin. We want to stir that and mix it well. Okay, now we want to take this pectin and sugar mixture, and we're going to add it to the Scuppernong juice, and I'm going to mix it in pretty good. Want to be thorough and distribute it evenly. Like so. Just stir it for a minute. And then we want to pour it into a pot. A good size, pot that you think, would work pretty good for this sort of thing. Something that, I wouldn't use something too thin-walled. Something that for the heat's distributed pretty even. A nice, cooking pot like this. And then you need to heat this till it comes to a rolling boil. And at that point, you'll want to add your sugar. You want to heat it, stirring constantly. You gotta keep this stuff moving. That's going to take about 5 minutes or so before it gets, to a hard boil. And when it says this kind of boil, it's not barely boiling. It's one of these boils that you can't stir it away. That's the heat you're talking about. You want to put your canning lids in a very hot water, not boiling, but very hot water to sterilize them. I also have the jars. The noise you're probably hearing in the background, it's the jars in the dishwasher on the sterilizing cycle, so they'll be, 1, sterile, and 2, they'll be very good and hot at the time for when we're ready to pour the jelly into the jars, and that way they won't be cold and try to crack on us. You may not be able to see it in the recording here, but it's already starting to lose that the brown color, and it's starting to get more of an amber orange translucent appearance. And that'll increase, especially once we go to adding the sugar. Okay, now we've come up on that boil that I was talking about that you can't stir away. And you don't want to stay here too long with it because it will break down the pectin. It's time to add the sugar.